Hi, my name's Richard.
I'm Rachel.
Welcome to Aspirations Dance video lessons. While the techniques that we're going to discuss in these videos will work for any level of dancer, we are going to be primarily looking at the casual dancer, the kind of person who isn't really interested in the pressures of competition work, but just really wants to get onto the dance floor and experience the fun and enjoyment of partner dancing. So let's get things started. Okay, so if you've looked at the 3-beat video, then all we need to do to transform it into 4-beat is add one more step. So taking it from 3 steps to 4 steps, and we'll talk about timing a little bit later on as well. So when we looked at the 3-beat, we had one step in the direction that we were going, a step to the side and closed our feet. So when we look at what's going to happen here, instead of taking one step, we're going to take 2 steps in the direction that we want to go in, and then to the side and close our feet. Now, as we start to look at the development of multiple steps in any direction, we can also look at a change in how we step and where we step. Of course, there's nothing wrong with us walking and stepping in line with our partner over the 2 steps. But of course in the early stages that can often lead to moments where we potentially have a foot shoved underneath another foot, which we would like to avoid at all costs. So we're going to look at now how we use the outside partner work now and develop that very early on. Of course you can choose whether you go inline or outside partner. The recommendation is to work on the outside partner because it's one of the hardest technical steps in dancing, and getting into it very early on definitely is worthwhile. So what happens here is we make sure that partner is situated slightly to our right hand side, as we talked about when we looked at the framework and the hold video, when we looked at shifting partner over to the side. And what that does is it clears up a bit of space around here. Again, you can see as I do that, so it clears a little bit of space. So now as we move forwards, we're able to use the outside partner steps. So instead of going in line with the feet, now I can go walk, walk. Now it's fairly difficult to maintain connection here, and we're not going to go too technical into the positioning that allows us to maintain that. One thing I will say is just look at the end position when you're trying your steps outside partner, because often you can find yourself, if you put your partner too far over, coming alongside your partner, which will cause you issues and concerns. You can see this is all out of shape now, and we're going to start losing that interactivity. So always try to keep your partner in front of you when you do that. When we look at that, the initial information, of course, that we talked about when we started looking at turns in the 3-beat work was the application of the turn and understanding where that is, as well as knowing that we only have straight steps or turning steps. So when I take these steps in a straight line, what you see is I go walk, walk, side, closed. Now that's fine, there's nothing wrong with us using that if we wanted to. However, if we were to continue doing that, we find that it drifts and we start to move across the floor into the wall. So we now need to look at which is the optimal step to create the turn. Now, the understanding in dancing really is that any of these steps could be turning steps. So as you start to develop into more advanced work and more advanced figures, you'll find turns appearing all over the place. But for now, what we'll look at is taking the second step and turning that into a turning step. So when we see that in action now, what you're going to see is I'm going to apply all the techniques of the turn on that second step. So I'll go walk, turn, side, closed. And now we get ourselves into a situation where we can continue moving in the direction that we want to go in, and we can apply that same technique in that backwards step, or backwards for the lead, of course. Now, we talked about a lot of the connection work and the technical work from the frame in the hold video. We go into a little bit more detail in that video, so go back there if you're having any problems with that. And again, the turn video, if you haven't looked at that, we're just applying the turn now. We're not really going deep into the concept. But I'm going to talk about that because if we are looking at the follow interaction with the lead and with the follow working with the lead, we find that again, the follow doesn't have to remember that this is a turning step. And often when the follow does remember that it's a turning step and tries to apply it, this is where we get the fight. So here we have a nice relaxed hold. Rachel's now going to turn herself into her turn, and we're going to see what happens. So we say walk, and you can see immediately that Rachel's pulling away from me because Rachel has applied the concept of the turn correctly. She hasn't done anything wrong there in terms of the techniques, but we are no longer working together. And as we've said, our objective on the dance floor is to have fun while the music's playing, but also to work together as a team. So to make that happen, we again talk about the fact that in that turning step, Rachel is really just walking backwards. As far as Rachel's concerned, every single one of these steps is a straight step. Rachel doesn't have to try to remember. In fact, it's better not to. Okay, so we're in this one here again. Now we'll see what happens when Rachel just moves backwards into that second step, and then I apply the turn. So walk, turn, side, close. Now you see we work together and we stay together and we stay in our connected position, and we get that nice smooth moment again that feels connected. Well, one of the steps that can really catch us out is the side step. So from the follow's perspective, if you are remembering that you have to step to the side and Rachel's got much longer. I've got these little stumpy things here. But Rachel's got these great long legs, which is fantastic for progression. But you see what's going to happen when Rachel decides how big of a side step to take here, and I try to keep up probably. So we'll see how that works when we have the follow deciding what's going to happen in terms of the size of the step. So we go walk, turn, and look what happens. I take my little tiny step because of my little legs. Rachel takes a big step, and we get ourselves into a situation where now we've got that disconnect. So once again, we look at the framework and we look at how the movement is taken from the perspective of how I decide I want to move. So if I'm going for small steps, then Rachel will take a small step, even a little tiny step there, look at that. Or if I really want to push out there, we can see again that Rachel's going to move with me. And that is really key again for getting the smoothness, especially in the 4-beat work, because once we get a disconnect in this, especially at the faster speeds, we turn from a dance into bumper cars moving down the room together, and it goes from a wonderful experience to an absolute appalling experience. But we'll talk about that when we get to the fast work. Okay, so here we are, and now we're going to apply all that technique work. So we get our frame in position, nice connection. I'm not going to move past Rachel, I'm going to keep her in front of me, and we're going to go a walk, turn, side, closed. Now I know my direction because I want to go this way is backwards. Again, if I just went in a straight line, what I would create is a walk and a walk. So no turn has been applied, no body turn. However, that's not going to work out so well because now as I apply my side closed, I'm still facing backwards, which isn't ideal until I get to a situation later down the line with my dancing where I can deal with that information. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take those walks and apply the turn on the second step, again using all that information that we talked about. So we would go walk, turn, side, closed. And because we're interacting and working together, we now get a connected dance. So we'll see that in action as we work, and we'll do this in both directions. So we will get walk, turn, side, closed, walk, turn, side, closed. Okay, and we'll turn around and we'll dance it back this way so you can see that as well. So we get into our position. So this is my direction over here. Walk, turn, side, closed, walk, turn, side, closed. Okay, and then we have the 4-beat work, and if we were to apply that to the slower foxtrot music, timing wise, we would be looking at 2 slows and 2 quicks. So it would go slow, slow, quick, quick, and that would be our timing to create. So we'll do that whilst calling the timing out. So you can see we would get slow, slow, quick, quick, slow, slow, quick, quick. And if we repeat that moving around the room, that will give us an opportunity to dance the foxtrot music, a little social foxtrot there, kind of zigzagging around the room. So if you are an overthinker, and I'm talking to kind of the scientists and the mathematicians and engineers and doctors out there who will want all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, often you can find that when you stop to think about these things, it stunts and limits the dancing, of course, and it removes the flow of the dance. So try not to think about it too much, because if we're applying our transfer of weight and all our good framework and we're working together, even if we make the odd little error, as well, we'll call it an error. I don't like to call things mistakes. I just call them variations. But if we do make an error or a mistake in our eyes, if we just keep moving, generally we can recover, as long as we're following the base foundation work of the transfer of weight. And we're going to find in our 4-beat work, this is where it really starts to highlight the lack of interactivity if we haven't built that up yet. So make sure you go back and work on some of those things. Rachel, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, just for the follows, try not to focus too much on the steps, the amount of turn, the speed of it can make you feel a little bit panicked. Try and focus on your partner, your interaction with your partner. So particularly when you're moving outside partner, if you just lead me to the first 2 steps. So you've got your slow. I haven't lost my frame. My frame is exactly where it was when we were facing in line with one another, moving into a straight step. So I'm still working towards my partner. I'm focusing on a little bit of tension. I've rotated my shoulders a little bit towards him. I'm still looking to the left, but my upper body's rotated to the right, and that way I'm not losing my frame and ending up with a frame that looks like that, which is the danger with the outside partner work. It's very hard. It's one of the harder points of ballroom dancing, particularly when you start out. So make sure, concentrate on your partner, lock your frame into place, and let them do the rest. They'll move you through it. I think just a little tip for the corners, for the leads especially, as follows: we don't want to get involved too much with the corners. It's up to the leads how they're going to deal with it, when they're going to deal with it. Leads, you don't want to leave it too late. You don't want to find yourself crammed into a corner with no room to do anything at all, nowhere to go. So if we use this corner to demonstrate, so as I'm dancing my social foxtrot, I think, okay, I've got a nice amount of space to attack the corner. I'm going to drive into it, and I want to keep looking at the wall. At no point do I want to find myself looking into the middle of the room. So as I'm ready to move backwards and drive out of it, I stay looking at the wall, a little bit extra rotation as I'm moving backwards, and all of a sudden I'll find that I'm pointing towards my next corner, ready to dance down the next line of dance.
And that is really important, because as we start to develop into more advanced work and rotational work, we find that we work from corner to corner in the room. So it's really important information there with regards to the lead. So when you're getting there, and one of the tips I like to use, you're welcome to use this if you like, or come up with your own, is I imagine that there's a big target at my corner. So I visualize the target on the floor, and as I approach the corner and I make it to my target, it's like ding ding ding, in my mind of course, a confetti dropping down, yay Richard, you did it. And then as I reverse out, I start looking for my next corner and I start to visualize my next target, so I'm moving towards the target. So by all means use that. It's very exciting for me in my mind when I make it to the corners, and it certainly does help. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look at the application of that information, but we're going to speed things up. We're going to develop some basic quick step work and talk about what we need to do to make that work, because this dance is, I would say, probably one of the most fun dance experiences on the ballroom floor. Viennese waltz is probably our favourite to dance, but the fast dances, what an amazing moment. One day you're going to be out there dancing, you'll dance a quick step, you'll float and fly down the room, you'll be so connected, and you're going to think, this is the most exhilarating experience I've ever had. And you're going to understand why we're so passionate and why we love dancing. Unfortunately, if you're like most of us, when you first start trying this, you're going to get the awful moment where it's disconnected, we're bouncing off each other, toes ending up underneath feet and all sorts of stuff, and you end up hating it. When I first started dancing, I hated hated the quick step, and the reason was because I wasn't quite involved with my partner in terms of getting those connections, and I was applying a lot of memory work. I was trying to remember, I was trying to think, and I was overthinking, and it went from a dance to a mess, a complete mess. So when you find yourself getting into that situation, you're not alone. We've pretty much all been there. Just take it back, go back to looking at the interaction with partner, and then you're going to feel that moment. One day it's just going to happen, and you're going to hit that moment. You're going to fly down the room, you're going to go, oh, we're there. And then you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to get that happening consistently, which is pretty much where we're at as well. Okay, so what we're looking at now is what will happen when we start to speed things up. So we're not going to change the steps or the turns. We're not going to do anything. We're just going to make things a little bit faster. So we go from slow, slow, quick, quick to slow, slow, quick. Pretty much really fast. Quick step. The clue is in the name. So it goes slow, slow, quick, quick, slow, slow, quick, quick. Okay, we're dance cycling back down the room here. So we go slow, slow, quick, quick, slow, slow, quick, quick. Okay, so things that are really important in Quickstep, outside of everything else that we talked about, is trying to smooth things out a little bit. And we can go back to the slow work to work on this. So once we start to gain this extra understanding, we can apply it. And where we're seeing that happening is at the closing step. And I take responsibility for these things, so if you're working through these videos in order, I haven't mentioned this yet, so if this has been happening to you, I do apologise, but hopefully we can fix it now. So one of the things that happens in the early stages when we do this is we develop a dance that can often be a little bit staccato or stilted. So we end up going slow, slow, we put a little stop in, and then we start again. And it doesn't feel smooth, it doesn't feel like the experience that I was talking about. But to start to develop and build towards that, what we can look at is when we hit the closing step, because we know which direction we're going in, we don't have to think about the next step. All we have to do is keep moving down that line. So we have that line heading straight down the room, and that's our line of dance. And if we move down that and use that momentum to take us in that direction, there's no reason for us to have to stop the dance. So now what we look at, and this becomes really apparent when we start to speed things up as we move into the quick step. So instead of going walk, turn, side, closed, now we just move. So we go slow, slow, quick, quick, we're off. Okay, so we smooth it out in the middle there, and again we're going to find that that's going to give us that moment where things start to change with the interaction. We don't have to stop. Bring it back to that slow work to try to develop that, and that's going to unlock and open up a basic quick step for you. Again, kind of zigzagging around the room, but again, try not to overthink it, and I think you're going to have a great time with the quick step. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that. Do all the usual stuff. Give us feedback, like, subscribe, call us in the wee small hours with all your problems. And, if it's important to you, it's important to us. We just want to make sure you're having a great time out there on the dance floor.